So today, we're diving into a blueprint for managing organizational change. You know, if you've ever been part of a big project that kicked off with all these high hopes, but just kind of fizzled out into chaos, you know exactly how frustrating that is. Well, let's explore a model that's designed to stop that from ever happening again.
We've all been there, right? A brilliant new strategy gets announced, there's a big flashy kickoff meeting, and then nothing really changes. Or even worse, things just get messy and complicated. So why is it that even with the best intentions, so many of these massive efforts just fall completely flat?
Well, here's the twist. It's usually not the idea that's the problem. It's the lack of a real roadmap. See, most change models are fantastic at telling you what you should be analyzing, but they don't really tell you how to actually get the solutions in place.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We'll start with why change fails so often, then we'll walk through a 5-phase solution, we'll look at the roles of employee teams and management, and finally, we'll pull out the real keys to making it all work.
Okay, let's dig into that missing roadmap idea. Most change models, they're diagnostic. They help you find the problems. But that's kind of like a doctor telling you what's wrong without ever writing a prescription. They often leave out the most critical part, a step-by-step guide for actually making changes happen inside a complex organization full of real people.
And this is where a concept from consultant David Nadler comes in. He developed what he calls a process model. Now, think of this not just as a map, but more like turn-by-turn GPS directions. It's a specific sequence of activities designed to guide a participative approach, where employees are actually deeply involved in figuring out the problems and building the solutions themselves.
All right, so what does this journey actually look like? Well, the model is this really clear 5-phase blueprint that's designed to guide the entire process right from the very beginning to the very end. Okay, so here are the 5 phases at a glance. It all kicks off with needs identification. Then you move into diagnosis, where a dedicated team really dives deep into the data. Next up is design. That's where the solutions are built. From there, you go to implementation, which is the actual transition. And finally, evaluation, to see if it all actually worked. It's a really logical flow from problem to solution to, well, proof.
Now, here's what's really interesting about this model. Who's actually driving the car here? The real engine isn't a few senior executives or some outside consultants locked away in a conference room. The heavy lifting, the real analytical work, is done by teams of actual employees and managers from inside the organization.
This table lays it all out beautifully. You can see how we go from a consultant just getting things started to these distinct employee teams for each major phase. You've got a diagnostic team finding the problems, then a design team building the solutions, a transition team managing the rollout, and an evaluation team checking the results. It's like a perfectly coordinated relay race of responsibility.
And the model is super smart about who does what. The diagnostic team, that's made up of your subject matter experts from different levels, people who are chosen because they have credibility and they know what's really happening on the ground. The design team, though, that's generally people at a higher level, and that's because they need that broader bird's-eye view to design solutions that will work for the whole system. And get this process is built for speed, not for endless soul-crushing meetings. The really intensive parts, the diagnosis and the design phases, they're each structured to be done and dusted within 20 to 25 working days. That creates momentum and keeps everybody focused and engaged.
Okay, so up to this point, we have these employee teams doing fantastic work. But this brings us to a massive, and I mean massive, point of failure in almost any organizational change. It's the very reason that most top-down plans just run out of steam.
Exactly. If the employee teams are busy doing all the diagnosis and design work, what are the senior leaders doing? Because if they're not involved, they're not going to understand it, they're not going to support it, and they certainly won't feel any ownership of what the teams come up with. And that right there is a recipe for disaster. And this is the absolute genius of the Nadler model. While all the employee teams are on their track doing their work, senior management is on a concurrent track. It's called the parallel path, and it is the secret sauce that makes the whole thing work.
So the parallel path is basically a series of dedicated workshops just for senior management. It runs at the exact same time as the employee-led phases, and its entire purpose is to solve the #1 reason that change fails: leadership that's just not bought in because they were left out of the process.
Now, the crucial thing here is that the goal isn't just to tell managers what's happening, it's to actually transform them. They learn the same concepts and tools the teams are using, they get to form their own informed opinions. And this turns them from being passive people waiting for a report into informed, critical consumers who can actively champion the changes when it's time to roll them out.
And this path is just as structured as the employee track. There are 3 key workshops, and each one perfectly mirrors a phase of the main process. There's a diagnosis workshop, a design workshop, and an implementation workshop. This ensures that management is in lockstep with the teams every single step of the way.
So let's bring all this together. What makes this 2-track approach so incredibly powerful is how seamlessly the 2 paths integrate. You end up creating a single unified force for change instead of that classic battle between the top and the bottom of the organization.
You know, the source material puts it perfectly. This isn't 2 separate projects just happening at the same time. No, it's one integrated process. The employee teams are providing all that detailed work and the ground-level intelligence, while the parallel workshops make sure senior management is trained, prepared, and totally ready to support the results.
So this integrated process has some really clear strength. It's diagnostic, right? Using data to find the right problems. It's systematic. It involves the right people at every single level. It's structured and it's timely. And most critically, it builds a real partnership between employees and senior management from the very beginning to the very end.
And one last really important detail here. This blueprint isn't totally rigid. An organization doesn't always have to start at phase 1. For instance, if you're building a brand new team, you might just jump straight to the design phase. Or if a design has already been decided on, you could use just the implementation phase to roll it out in a way that still involves everyone.
So when you look at it, this model provides a clear, proven blueprint for change. It directly tackles the most common reasons things fail: a lack of employee engagement and weak management buy-in. So the only question left is, when you look at your own organization, where would you need to begin?